So I want to talk about some specific issues in family court that parents face and that are actually signs of coercive control, domestic abuse and alienating behaviours. So the first one we're going to look at, and I'll keep adding to these, is technology facilitated coercive control. Now, I get this a lot, and this is often parents will, the abusive parent will give the child a phone. Now, they can often give this to children where it's totally inappropriate, like they're too young to have a mobile phone at that age, but they do so they can keep tabs, so they can watch you, so that they can make phone calls when they're in your time, so that they can ask what they're doing, so that they can guilt trip the child when they're not there. Oh, I miss you so much. Oh, I wish you could come and see me. And these are all drips into the child's ear around, oh, the other parent can't cope without me. I need to go and take care of the other parent. And kids really young can pick up on that. Kids of 5 and 6, even 4, 5 and 6 can pick up on that level of what's expected of them. Now, obviously, you know it as manipulation, but they don't. They think, oh, they're missing me. I should go and fix that. And this is all part of that role reversal dynamic where the child is being trained to become responsible for the other parent's emotions and their feelings. And the phone can be a real problem with that, because particularly if, like, the slightly older kids, if they've, if their friends are just starting to get phones as well, and you feel, I really don't want my kid to have a phone just yet. So you put a boundary in place saying, look, if you want to give them a phone, fine, that's your time, but they're not going to use it in my house. You might get pressure from your child that they want to use the phone in your house, or the child might feel really anxious because the other parent can't get hold of them, and there's been a lot of pressure put on them in the other house by the other parent to ring them or to text them, and, oh, if you don't text me back, I'll be so worried. And a child knows what that means. Like, they know that that's not a good thing. They know that there'll be consequences when they get back. So if if they don't text them or call them as expected, then when they get back, there'll be a ton of questions. There'll be, some, I'm going to ignore them because I'm angry with them. Very subtle and not so subtle cues that the child has done something wrong. So the child feels a lot of pressure when they're with you to use the phone. And that can put you in a really difficult position, because you want to maintain your boundary because you're trying to protect your child. You're also trying to protect your own peace and space. And that's perfectly valid. Absolutely. The child is then caught in that middle of that because they know they're going to get in trouble, whether that be, like, say, through the withdrawal of love and affection, the subtle anger, or outright, why didn't you call me? You don't care about me anymore. You've heard it, you know what they're capable of. And so it can be a really anxiety provoking place for your child to be in. And it's really important to stay present with your child when they're experiencing those feelings, just to let them feel them. And that's hard. You don't want to, you want to fix that. That's part of being a rescuer. That's part of that dynamic. And it's also part of being a parent. When they fall over and they hurt themselves, you don't want them to hurt. It's painful for you when it hurts. That's empathy. But you can't fix this for them. What you can do is you can maintain your boundary and you sit with them through that uncomfortable feeling, and you help them to understand that actually your boundary's fine, and those feelings, they're fine, they can sit with those feelings and help them find a way through. I'm not saying that's easy, by the way, far from it. These are very difficult and complex situations, but the most important thing that your child needs in that moment in time is for you to help them to regulate their emotions, because that's what builds the strong connection between the two of you. That is what is a secure attachment base is when you are able to stay present with them, not fix it, not explain it at that moment in time, just be there with them. When they're feeling anxious, just be with them, let them feel it. If they're angry, let them be angry. As long as they're not hurting you, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, just let them feel what they need to feel. When they've calmed down, which they will, you know, it's very calming when the other person isn't jumping in and trying to fix it, or trying to tell you that you're wrong to feel that the way you feel, or, you know, please don't feel that way, or giving in and going, okay, here's the phone. You know, when you just sit with them through that, that eventually is really reassuring, because it's what it's saying to the child is, I can feel my worst possible way and this parent is still there for me. The other parent can't do that. The other parent is incapable of sitting with them through that, because they can't cope with the level of discomfort that they feel within themselves. So they push them away. They stop crying, stop doing that, because they can't cope with it. You've got to show your child you can cope with that. You can sit with that. But the phone is such an invasive way of doing this. Now, you can look at, I mean, I would straight away look for any tracking devices within that phone. I'm not a tech person, so I don't know where they would be, but I would definitely look and see if there are any tracking devices within that. What about access to files and stuff? Is there any way that they're able to hack into anything in your house through that phone? Because what you don't want is that phone to be a spy. You know, you've seen the wildlife programs where you've got, you know, the penguin, the robot penguin, the spy in the group. Well, you don't want that phone to be that for you. You don't want it to exist in your house and actually just be collecting data on you. So I would get it checked out. If it's going to come into your home, I'd get it checked out. Make sure that there's nothing on there that can do that. I would also put very clear boundaries with your child around phone usage. And it might be that you have to adhere to some of these things as well, because I'm a big believer in modelling that kind of behaviour. So, you know, phones away at dinner, for example, no phones after. So an hour before bed, off your phones, away. Technology is done. We have a full hour before bed where we don't touch technology, such as phones, laptops, you know, that kind of thing. Helps unwind and all of that. You know, you'd have to talk to your child about them, what's going to work for your family. But if they are going to be sent home with a phone, do what you can within your own home to protect yourself from that invasion. In terms of what the law can do, very little. It's not really a legal issue. It's something that you can add to a pattern of coercive control. But it would need to be part of a pattern. On its own, it doesn't necessarily, especially if your child's older, then it wouldn't necessarily stand out as something. But it can be as part of a pattern, particularly if the pattern within that is that they ring every hour, or they're constantly texting or doing all of that. Those things add up to a pattern of behaviour. So I will leave it there. That's the first of these that I wanted to talk about. And it's such a big one. So yeah, we'll look at the next one in the next video. If you've got any comments on this, don't forget to drop them below. If you think someone would find this useful, don't forget to share it, and take care, everyone. Bye.